guys, what is up? AwesomeTheSauce here. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day and welcome to a very important video. I've been thinking about making this kind of video for a very long time, but I kind of wanted to wait and see a little bit before I really, made the generalization that I'm about to make. Spellements are becoming extremely pay to win. I don't even think that's up for debate anymore. Now, when I say I've been waiting, I really have been. And I think, you know, it shouldn't go without saying that Spellements didn't always register as broken AF until recently. You know, let's look at the history of Spellements real quick to prove that point. When Spellements first started, they started off with Daybreaker and Nightbringer. And not only were they droppable from packs, they were also immediately droppable from the Catacomb. When they came into the game, they were both farmable and buyable with crowns. Additionally, what I think made Daybreaker and Nightbringer very good examples of how Spellements should be handled is that they were put on relevant bosses. They were put on bosses that you would actually farm for things, alchemical reagents like extracts, salts, crystals, whatever you want to call it, maybe even Vanguard gear, right? They were dropping a lot from people that you would actually be farming for things, and it wasn't really pay to win. Now, they escalated this by using Spellements to upgrade spells, and even this, I don't think really was that crazy. Let's take Krampus, for example, right? You could go the damage route and keep the 45%, or as a lot of people did, you could just keep the damage the way it was and raise the mantle a little bit. And I honestly really was enjoying Spellements up to this point. Reindeer Knight was a really cool little upgrade that you could do. Krampus was a really cool little upgrade you could do. And then it started to get slightly out of control with the 2-pip spells, and I think this was a turning point. Now, I think one of the best examples of 2-pip Spellements that kind of started making the game a little bit out of control was Scorpion. Now, I still don't know where you can get Scorpion Spellements. I only got this upgrade by getting lucky from packs that were gifted to me by the people watching me because they wanted that balance content. The average player is not going to have access to that many packs unless they're splurging on crowns. And this really, because there is no farmable alternative, this really does seem to become a little pay to win. Now, 10% weakness, is it really that crazy? I guess you could argue that it's not. It's only a mild advantage that you get in PvP, but that's what brings us to this video. Now, it's starting to become very clear that Spellements are really something that is afforded to the people with money in this game and not really something that's afforded to people who don't have it. I think there's 3 key problems with the Spellements from the latest pack. Now, if you don't know what pack I'm talking about, I actually put a pack opening. I did a pack opening on the channel, so you can check that out. It's gonna be in the description. But basically, the pack that we're talking about is this damn pack over here. Now, I opened up 15,000 crowns worth of these packs, and I know a lot of people are going to argue that that's not a high enough sample size, so I'm actually going to use data from a sample size much larger to give you guys an idea of what you can expect when you're opening this pack. Let's look at this tweet from community member Alexander Lionheart, and let's look at his numbers and see what you're getting if you were to put in 240,000 crowns into this pack. And the results, they're going to shock you. Bah! So, after my mans spent 240,000 crowns, he only got to tier 3 in Nautilus. So, tier 3 in Nautilus, meaning, if you click on this, he only got halfway through on this one after 240,000 crowns. Barely got to the 3rd tier of Spiritual Tribunal with that many crowns, 240,000. He got barely halfway with Ship of Fools with 240,000 crowns. And he just got to the Fork in Celestial Intervention with 240,000 crowns. He made it to tier 3 on all of them. Now, I don't think that's a coincidence. It's basically it's like a statistical thing. When you open up a vast number of packs like that, you'll start to see patterns. I don't think it's a coincidence that after 240,000 crowns on all 4 of the spells, he got to tier 3. What this really means is, with that statistical data that we have available to us, you can expect to get to the very last tier of a lot of these spells with 500,000 crowns on average. That means you can give or take a little bit here and there, but really and truthfully, it is going to take on the range of hundreds of thousands of crowns in order to get a fully upgraded spell that you, as far as we know, is not dropped anywhere else. This really brings us to the first of 3. The first problem is that one pack is responsible for 4 different Spellements. And I really don't think that they should do that, because in the previous packs, they only ever put 1 2-pip spell and 1 1-pip spell as the type of Spellement that you could get. For example, right, the Scorpion pack also gave Dark Sprite, and that was it. So the chances of you getting Spellements that you don't need were actually much lower, and that's a good thing. The second problem, and I think I've kind of touched on this, is unlike every other Spellement in the game, as far as anybody in this community knows, there is no place where this drops. And this brings me, the second point really brings me to the point that spells are really being gatekeeped behind packs. Let's look at a spell like Hammer of Thor. It took them an entire year to make the spell craftable. There was no Spellement version of this. There was no craftable version of this. There was no boss that dropped this spell. If you wanted a spell that helped you get wins in PvP as a Storm, you needed to pay cash. That was the only way to do it for a whole year. And it looks like they're kind of doing this with Spellements, except now, instead of a freak chance of getting the spell as a drop, you can consistently rely on opening up tons of packs in order to get the spell. It's actually even worse than it was with the Grendel's packs, with Hammer of Thor, Grendel's Amends, and Ratatata. The third problem, and I think you guys might have noticed this when you're looking at the Spellement pads, the first few versions of the spell are actually really bad. They're not worth the actual Spellement. I think the only exception to this is Ship of Fools. I think Ship of Fools, pretty much you get your best, you get the best bang for your buck with this spell compared to every other spell. We can make an exception for this. I think if you can get Ship of Fools, it's actually almost as good as having the best version. But if you look at some of these other spells, the upgrades matter a lot. Celestial Intervention goes from maximum healing you for 300 to maximum healing you for either 600 or, in this case, almost 800. Spiritual Tribunal's doing 100 more damage, and this isn't like an AoE, this is a single hit. 100 damage on an AoE is much less important than a single hit like this. And not to mention the chance, whatever that is, I don't even still know what that is, but the final version of the spell is clearly just much better. No matter what the chances, if you're doing multiple things with the spell, it's gonna be a lot better. I think the biggest offender when it comes to this is Nautilus Unleashed. When you're looking at how good the last version of this is, it's actually insane. It can literally do an overtime that does 200 more damage, and almost 300 more damage than the low end version of it, right? And do it in an overtime. That's insanity. That's insanity compared to the first version of this. Not to mention, in Tier 5, the fact that you can steal 2 charms. That's the first time this utility is introduced in this entire spell writing tier. So what I'm trying to say is, even if you learn the spell, it's not really that usable compared to the final versions of these. So really, it's not even that you're getting Spellements to learn the spell, you're getting Spellements to learn a very weakened version of the spell. Now, I'm not saying that this is a problem without solutions. I think there are multiple solutions. I think, one, you could just make singular Spellements craftable, and you can make them hard to craft, but at least, you know, make them craftable so that, yes, it's going to be a grind to get all the Spellements you need to upgrade, but at least you don't have to pay crowns for it. Number 2, you can make the base form of the spells droppable or craftable, and just use Spellements to upgrade them like they used to be. It shouldn't be gatekeep. You shouldn't need to be learning the spell with Spellements. It should be something you can actually get, and then Spellements can be used to upgrade. I don't like this idea that Spellements can be used to learn spells, because at the end of the day, that's actually worse than just getting the spell by luck from a pack in its base form. You have to get 35 of these in order to learn one. So instead of making it 1 drop that's rare, you're making it 35 drops that are still very rare. So essentially, I don't think learning a spell should be a Spellement thing. I think it should be strictly upgrading. And finally, I think they should just make these lore drops. I mean, at the end of the day, how often are you really getting the exact spell you need from lore? People will still pay packs for it, but at least there's something that they can do to have some sort of small chance of getting the actual spells. Again, it can just be the base form, so you still need Spellements to upgrade it. But at the end of the day, these aren't usable for the vast majority of people, and there are a lot of strategies, especially when I'm thinking about distinctly different strategies with ice, utilities that fire might actually need, and strategies that balance could really use now. These are all being put behind a paywall for no reason. I think the main point of this video is that history really repeats itself. I think we've seen the Grizzleheim lore spells basically inaccessible to most people in this game for a whole year. And now we're seeing that happen again, except almost as if it's worse with the way Spellements are. And I think the biggest shame is that I think a lot of work and creativity went into the animations and the actual, like, things that these spells do. And at the end of the day, no one's actually able to enjoy them unless they have a lot of money for some damn reason, you know? Like, it shouldn't be an expectation you need to pay money like that, especially when you have so many people already paying membership to play this game. I mean, there's just way too many extra things that are being attached to money, when really what it should be is a really, really cool addition to the game. Something that can diversify strategies, something that can bring people into PvP with different solutions to the same problem, beating their opponent. I think Spellements have a lot of potential, and I really was liking how they were doing, as I kind of mentioned in this video. But for me, they're starting to go too far, and that's why I'm making this video. But my opinion's only one thing. I want to hear y'all. Drop a comment letting me know what y'all think of the Spellements, especially the ones more recently. Do you guys think they're feeling pay to win? I don't know. Maybe some people have other opinions. I definitely think they're pay to win. As always, there's tons of links in the description, including my Twitch, my Twitter, my Discord, my Instagram, and my Patreon. Thank you for all the love on Patreon. As always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong, so stay awesome. And yeah, yo.